St. Louis, Minnesota, 11-12 on the rotation. Minnesota minus 150. Total is 5 in this game. That's right, 5. Shaded to the over, minus 140. Again, every time now I see a 5, I'm like, huh? 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 What? Huh? Huh? That's the kind of reaction I'm doing when I see I gotta just stop and what I'm doing and just be in awe and shock that I see a 5 right now. Some of these games, you just don't see it very often anymore. But we're seeing that now in this game between the Blues and the Wild. Part of me wants to take St. Louis here, but an odd day for them yesterday. I mean, they trade away Paul Stastny. A couple people saying, well, what are we doing? Braden Shen specifically talking about it, saying, are we a team that's still in this playoff chase with this kind of trade? You just don't know. And they've fallen out. They're right out of a postseason spot right now, St. Louis, with this little swoon they've gone on in recent games. So, question is, can St. Louis right the ship? Their offense has suddenly disappeared again, which is really a surprise to me because at least you're expected to see this team score a little bit. With Schwartz has been back for a while. We thought that would make a difference, and it really did for a while. But right now, they're just having a tough time finding goal scoring at a consistent basis, and you can point to that being a large part of the reason why we're seeing this total right now at 5 in this hockey game. When it's all said and done, we've got St. Louis on just a terrible slide. 6 straight losses, scored 2 goals or less in 5 of those 6 games. Now they have faced a pretty wicked schedule. That's the one thing I will give St. Louis a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. They've played a very tough slate of teams during this 6-game slide. Pittsburgh, 2 games against Nashville. I mean, those are the Cup finalists last year right there, and 3 of those 6 losses. Dallas, San Jose, Winnipeg, not a really terrible loss in that mix for St. Louis. But the fact remains, you're struggling right now. You're not winning games. You've lost 6 in a row. This should be a bounce back spot after a tough, really bad, tough loss the other night, or it was a Sunday afternoon NBC game against Nashville, 4-0, got outshot 39-27. You should, after a team gets shut out, you should want to bounce back. But the problem is they were supposed to show that after the Winnipeg loss, and they didn't. They got shut out in that game, and you're supposed to bounce back after that, or at least show a little bit better for yourself the next time out, and they didn't against Nashville. It's a little bit of a concern. Now some little, backbiting going on and chatter going on about this Stastny trade. Like, what are we doing that for? Aren't we supposed to be a team that's in a fight for the playoffs right now? So there's a lot of issues right now with St. Louis. I like the price on St. Louis. They could wake up at any moment. Wouldn't surprise me because I still think this team can reach down and still battle and get in the playoffs. But right now it's been tough sledding for them. And we'll give Minnesota credit. They've won 4 straight, and they're finding ways to win on the road too. Swept through that Metro New York area trifecta. Islanders, Jersey, and Rangers. They won all 3 of those games. Minnesota last week. Come home in a tough spot. Didn't really play all that great, but found a way to win against San Jose 3-2 in overtime after falling behind in that game, coming home off that road trip. So give the Wild credit. Gotta like what you're seeing. They're as healthy as they've been all season, playing good hockey. We talked about how at home specifically they've played pretty well this season. When you look at Minnesota's home record, it's 21 and 11 on the season. That's pretty good. St. Louis just 15 and 15 on the road. So they've had inconsistency away from home. So I was initially trying to make a case for St. Louis. I like this price. I'm not a fan of laying minus 150 here with Minnesota, even when they are playing better hockey right now. But I got to see St. Louis bring me something to the table first before I can go ahead and back them here in this spot tonight. Blues and Wild for Alex. What are you looking at in this game tonight?
Well, it's interesting. Both of these teams are having some kind of rumblings within, the clubhouses and fan bases. You look at Minnesota; they put Chris Stewart on waivers. He gets picked up by Calgary, and a lot of fans really shaking their heads at that deal. He was a fan favorite. He was a guy who, at one point he was leading the team in scoring for a while. He brings a gritty edge and can find the back of the net at times. So. Kind of questionable when you look at a team that's won 4 in a row to not really make any moves. GM Chuck Fletcher said we're going to stay pat with what we have and kind of ride the wave. I'm not sure how that's going to really work out, but this Blues team is in absolute free fall. Lost 6 in a row, get shut out in back-to-back games, and then you get rid of a good offensive player in Paul Stastny. You look at the 5 of the last 6 games, they've scored 3 or fewer goals. And I'm not shocked at this at all. A Mike Yo team that's, finding, tough ways to score late in the year. We've seen that time and time again with Minnesota, and it's kind of translated now into St. Louis having those same offensive struggles when it matters the most. So I get why this total's at 5, but I'm looking at maybe playing Minnesota on the puck line here. I can see this being a 2-0, 3-1 kind of game. Minnesota's been doing really well at home lately and scoring often. Like I said, they did well the last 3 games that went on the road, and that New York, New Jersey trip, they were able to score early and often. So, if they get 3 or 4 goals, a under might be obviously pretty tough for them to hold on to. But I think there's some good value there laying the goal and a half at the Wild tonight at home.
All right, puck line for Minnesota, says Alex B. Smith. Chuck Fletcher actually, he feels comfortable. Actually, it's a good quote. You just want to be careful. You can bring certain players in, and then who gets bumped off the power play or who gets moved down in the lineup. We didn't feel that anybody was a significant upgrade. So that's Chuck Fletcher's story, and he's sticking to it here with this Minnesota team. That's gotta love that.
Okay, okay, Chuck.
You know what?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you're so
Chuck,
powerful.
yeah, exactly. We'll just be willing to just jump at anything. Exactly. You know what? He's not exactly a chip off his the old block of his legendary dad, Cliff Fletcher. Cliff Fletcher's one of the best rambler gambler GMs you'll ever see. The Leafs don't get as far as they do in the early '90s without that Doug Gilmour trade, which completely transformed that hockey franchise. And it took risk, it took guts, it took having a little bit of gumption to pull that off. Cliff Fletcher had it. I'm not sure son Chucky here does. Not after I read a quote like that. Minnesota puck line here for Alex in this game. This is also on Andrew's card. Blues and Wild tonight. Andrew, what do you see here in this game taking place?
You know what, Ian? I understand you're saying this is a good spot as far as value for the Blues, and I completely understand that because of how much Minnesota is really laying. But the fact is, I really think, guys, that this Blues team just has to wake up. It's plain and simple, have to wake up and get their shit together. I mean, this is not a team that's showing any promise for any kind of future in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and a long time, really. The way that they're so inconsistent right now. I mean, the thing about this Blues team, and I'm always trying to tell people about this, and we'll get into it, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys in the playoffs. Hockey is way different in the playoffs. Playoff hockey is a little bit different. The teams are more aggressive. They're more kind of more stagnant. They're a little more conservative sometimes. It's a lot more pressure. Sometimes you see lower scoring games from teams. Sometimes you see higher scoring. And I think the Blues are a great playoff team. They're a perfect example of a team that can really excel when they get to that playoff position. But right now, they're not really showing me anything that really points towards them being able to excel in a good spot because they've just been so inconsistent. I mean, they're 0-6 in their last 6 overall. But let's take a look at how they've kind of lost a couple of those. More importantly, the last couple, actually, the last 2 really, both 4-0 losses to Winnipeg. That to me, that's just completely embarrassing. If you're going to be a team that's supposed to at least be trending towards the under, you got to at least defend a little bit. If you're not going to be able to put up some goals, you got to at least be able to defend. And then you look at a couple more down the road there. February 20th against San Jose, a 3-2 loss. So it's a little bit more respectable. But they were favored -161. You look at February 16th, 2-1 loss to Dallas. So they're keeping it close, then back to Nashville again the 13th, 4-3 loss. So for me, those are a little bit more respectable because at least they're a little bit close. But both those 4-0 losses, guys, really meant a lot to me and really stuck out to me because that's just flat out embarrassing. That can't happen. We're getting too deep into this season right now, and this team, for some reason, has been favored a lot recently. Even for this complete downfall they're having. On the other side, I love betting the Wild at home. They're 4-0 in the last 4 games overall, 6-1 in their last 7 Tuesday games. And a lot of people might find that a funny stat, guys, but I'll continue to say it. Sometimes these day stats really do help. I mean, realistically, sometimes teams just trend to play better on some nights. I mean, we in Canada here, we always talk about the Hockey Night in Canada matchup. Certain teams play better when they're nationally televised, when it's the big game of the night, different things like that. And one other stat that I've been mentioning a lot these days, and it's on the Covers website here, the Wild are 14-3 in their last 17 when their opponent scores 2 goals or less in their previous game. So for me, this game just screams Wild. I'm not really going to think twice about it. I understand -145, -150. You're laying a pretty big amount of juice, guys. But because this Wild team doesn't seem to blow teams out, even though at home they are a strong team, they're not really a team that can blow teams out. So they're 16-6 in their last 22 games or 22 home games, and for me, that's just enough. And if you actually look at it as well, even though the total is so low, I agree with Alex. I think that it still could be literally a 2-1 or 3-1 kind of game. So the under is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings in Minnesota, and I wouldn't really shy away from that either, to be quite honest with you. So Minnesota is an official play for me.
All right, Minnesota money line for Andrew McGinnis in this hockey game. And talking about the day totals trend stats, I'm more keen to, and he mentioned the Hockey Night in Canada. That's the one I'd be more interested in. If I see it like a Toronto or a Montreal or these teams that are regularly playing on Saturday night on CBC with a 18-2 trend to the over, I'll take that to heart big time because it means they're showing out more on national TV. They want to show you a little something, put on a little bit of a show. That to me is a more impactful trend and record to go with than say just 8-2 to the over on a Tuesday, because it's just random games, random situations. But the Saturday Hockey Night in Canada one, definitely to me, I would take that with more of a grain of salt than say the regular Tuesday ones. Give some credit to, I got to shout him out in the chat here. We've got Timur Sergaliev in the chat giving us some KHL betting advice. Love it. I actually, and that's what people say, and I get asked this all the time on Twitter. You know your hockey, and obviously it's clear, but what about AHL and KHL and all this other stuff? I don't bet it. I'll be honest, I don't. There's not enough time. NHL takes up enough time. College basketball, the other sports, football. You just can't do everything. You're only one man, and there's only 24 hours to play with. So from that standpoint, just can't get involved too much in AHL or KHL or any of that. But if you bet it and you find an edge, good for you. Good on you. That's what you should be doing. If you find an edge in a sport, you bet it. That's all there is to it. That's how you make money.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.